Hey, my name's Sufal,
I'm Marvin.
And my name is Karen.
and welcome to TMA. Karen already introduced herself, but today we have Karen Au. We met her.
Me.
Yeah, how long ago did we meet you?
I know Marvin was 14.
14.
Yeah, that's a while
So
back.
I met you like
A year after me.
a year after.
Okay.
Yeah, like after I turned 15.
Yeah, and we met you through Unity volunteering,
Volunteering.
right?
I was your volunteer coordinator.
Yes. Wow, it feels like a lifetime ago.
I know. I'm not even in that role anymore.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So today we have Karen. We thought she was an interesting person. We also happened to be in Toronto for Reading Week.
Yep.
Yeah. So we just wanted to get you to introduce yourself, Karen. What have you been doing? How long have you been here? A little bit of your life story, whatever you want to talk about.
Holy hell, that's really big.
That is really
That's
don't
a
stress.
really big
so
question.
let's start with small. Like, where were we born?
I was
And
born
how'd you grow
here.
up?
I was born here before my parents immigrated from Hong Kong. So born here. My mother was smart. I was born a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil. Then we went back to Hong Kong until I was 2.5. Then officially immigrated here in 1988. So, and then I've been here since. Grew up in Thornhill. Went to school at U of T. My parents moved to Richmond Hill at that point, so I lived there too for a bit. Now I'm in Vaughan.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
By the way, we're in
Right
Vaughan.
by, yeah,
Yes.
we are in
We're in
Vaughan.
Vaughan.
Near Canada's Wonderland.
We can hear the screams of children in
Exactly.
my backyard. It's not as creepy as it sounds.
We don't mean it that way.
Joyful screams. Joyful.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's like euphoria.
Yes.
Screams of
Yes.
euphoria.
Yeah. So when I think Karen, I usually revert to two thoughts. It's
Okay.
educator and like unity.
I
Fair.
agree,
That's
yeah.
that's fair.
Because
Yeah.
that's mostly how I.
That's how we know you, at
Yeah,
least. Yeah.
I mean, if you look at my LinkedIn, that would be it.
Right. Professional network.
YRDSB teacher and Unity Charity. I don't know what my role is. The chapter coordinator.
Yeah, chapter coordinator.
For people who don't know what that is, the Unity is. I don't. Have you talked about Unity to people?
We can
on
mention
this?
it now,
No,
right?
we really haven't.
Can you tell us, actually, because you're a volunteer coordinator, right?
Yeah.
So could you tell us about, I guess, how you got involved with Unity in the first place?
Yeah, well, I met you guys as the volunteer coordinator. My role still works with university youth who are volunteering their time to work with Unity, but more focused on those who are running clubs at their university that are then associated with the charity. And what the clubs do, and it's very close to the charity mandate itself, is creating a space at their universities to express themselves through hip hop as a way to manage their stress, meet new people, have a safe place where they can be themselves, express themselves, and practice their art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like now you're chapters coordinator.
Yeah.
Do you yourself do anything in hip hop?
I always tell people that I myself personally am not hip hop, but I appreciate the art forms involved in or that associated with hip hop. I do paint a little bit. I used to do a lot of spoken word myself. And I really love house dancing.
Oh, yes. We've been
Yeah.
trying to do some of
We've been doing some of that.
specifically the farm move. That's our goal recently.
Do you have a jack?
Oh,
Do you have a jack?
No, kind of, right?
I love it.
Like we can't like tell people we have
I
it.
want to go tell someone I can do the
I
job.
can't
You're
brag about
developing your jack.
it. Yeah,
Is that-
you'll
is
see
what
us
you're-
someday with it. Yeah.
Yeah, so even every other every other hip hop dance form I try to go and do, it's always very much like it's very house. That's my base as a
Yeah.
dancer. But I think the art form that I associate myself most with is writing. But I also really like to sing. So if I'm listening to music, then lyrics are really important to me. More so than the emceeing part. I'm more of a spoken word person and vocalist. So
True.
anyway, so yeah.
Yeah. So I specifically remember I was thinking of questions to ask you. I'm like, okay, what would be super interesting? And you've been teaching for how long now?
Holy, since '08.
Oh, eight. Oh, that's a
Wow.
while. That's
Yeah.
like over 10 years now.
Yeah.
Over a decade.
Yeah,
Wow.
this year is my 11th year with the YRDSB.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to ask whether you have like some insights from teaching, also like possibly any stories of specific students or experiences you've had while working.
Holy hell.
Yeah. I'm sure you have like a plethora.
A lot. I think, well, one of the, I don't know, that's a lot. That's also a really big question. What, is there a specific topic that you're curious about within the education realm that you would want me
Yeah,
to
so
speak to?
like a lot, what I found, like not particularly for myself, for a lot of peers that I knew, was the education system is very, I want to say average. Then again, I'm saying this from a perspective of a student who is in the TDSB. Like, so for example, there's students that are they have access to tutors. They have their parents pushing them into things.
Mm-hmm.
So they have like accelerated learning. So they go to school. They're like, oh, this is so like easy. Like I've already done
Right.
all of this. So they're just kind of
Right.
chilling. And then I noticed a few of my own teachers, they got like demotivated to a certain degree. They're
Right.
kind of like, oh, these students know how to do it. They don't put as much effort into teaching
Right.
anymore. Right. This mostly applied to older teachers that I had.
Which high school did you go to? Again?
Sir John McDonald. It's
That's
like,
why.
yeah, that might be why. Yeah.
That neighborhood. I mean, we also, well, if we're going to be talking about the student bodies in different neighborhoods, we do notice that neighborhoods with very high immigrant populations tend to have very motivated students.
Yeah, because like
Yeah.
even my parents, they're like the norm is to have a tutor.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
teachers that literally outside of school would
Yeah.
tutor
Yes.
and you pay for it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so they're so
I did
used
that
to going
I did that gig for a while.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're basically ahead of the curriculum, and then I had these friends that like whether it's because of monetary values or it's simply they're told school is enough.
Yeah.
They're like
That's not their priority
Yeah,
in the
they're like
family. Yeah,
far
and that's
behind
okay.
compared to the students.
Yeah.
because they're not going to tutor. They're
Right.
not doing all these extra
Right.
things.
John A. McDonald. Yeah, that neighborhood is very
Yeah, it's like
the
it's,
student body itself, like regardless of whether the teachers were motivated or not, like
yeah, there's a mostly visible minority, like people
Yeah.
that
Right.
are either first generation or second generation
yeah,
Canadians, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's I mean, I can only speak for myself. Like I went to I also taught in a school. Like, I mean, also I teach elementary, not high school, whereas like you're speaking from a secondary perspective. So in the primary perspective or elementary perspective, we do have pockets of students or student bodies that are like that as well. I can only speak for myself. For me, then I would push the students and the learning would happen together as a community. So if I present the students a problem, they're going to have 10 billion different ways to solve it. And so then I would say to them as a teacher, okay, you show me how you do it then. Let's build the knowledge as a community. There's always different ways of doing things. So that would be the way I would approach it. And then if that's the case, then it would be more exciting for me because then I can provide them or do more challenging projects with them that require more inquiry or further or more complex problem solving. But I still wouldn't. I wouldn't move away from the curriculum. No, it's still my job to stick to the curriculum.
Okay. Curious, just
Yeah.
bring it back. So right now you said you're teaching what, elementary school kids?
Equivalent to middle school. Yeah,
So how,
7, 8.
I guess how did you? I don't know how it works exactly, but I see some teachers usually they teach high school students. Sometimes they teach usually the elementary school kids. How did you decide what sort of age range of kids that you want to work with?
I actually started with primary junior, would be from kindergarten to grade 6. That was what I had gotten training for when I went to teachers college. And then just by virtue of wanting to be more hireable, I guess, at the time, because of course the teaching profession is very competitive. So when I was in my 3rd year of teaching, the summer prior to me starting my 3rd year, I took what we call an additional qualification, and that allowed me to go and teach up to intermediate, so up to grade 8. And then at that point, that allowed me to get a job in my 3rd year teaching. I taught grade 7, 8 at that point, and once I hit middle school, I thought, this is it. This is my
Yeah, I know
age
for
group.
middle school is a lot of kids are going to is your school just 7, 8?
No, it's most schools in York region because of the population density.
Yeah.
And it's probably the philosophy of the school board as well to have K to 8 as opposed to
yeah,
just
we don't
middle school.
have that.
Yeah, for us, 7 to 8 was me and Marvin both went to the same middle school.
Yeah.
So for me personally, like 7 to 8 was more so like a transition year.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
literally it's my first year in a different school. For
Yep.
like the last 8 years, I'm at one school. All of a sudden, I'm at a new school.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it was like very. I wouldn't say I discovered myself. Definitely not. But
Those were
more
some weird
so-
years.
Yeah, those were weird years. You know.
Middle school is hard in itself already.
Yeah, it's like hormones going through you and everything. Yeah.
That's why I find it interesting. Like, I'm going to be honest,
Yeah.
and I tell my students this all the time, and I sit back and I watch them go through all this stuff. They don't know what's going on, but they think they know what's going on, and the next day they don't, and the next day they're mad at each other, the next day they're best friends, and there's just all
yeah.
this going on, and for the first time they're questioning their parents, and it's just everything is going all over the place. And then they just do weird things in the classroom, and I sit back and I just laugh at them a lot. I spend a
Yeah.
lot of the day laughing at them, but not in a mean way. You know, I laugh because they're being silly or they're acting silly, and so, you know, it's a way for me to show them in a very lighthearted way that, you know, what you're going through is normal. And and trying to put light on situations that, you know, if you kind of let them get in their head, they can start to take themselves too seriously. So that's where, yeah, I really enjoyed middle school.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
When
For
I
that
look
reason,
back at like my middle school years, I think those were definitely the weirdest. Like I think if I look back, that's how long ago for us? 5-6 years? Is that more?
6 years.
You're in your second year. So it
Yeah.
would have been 6 years, 7 years ago.
7 years.
Yeah,
ago.
there were some weird, really dumb things back then. Yeah.
I remember when I was in middle school, and never mind you.
Back in those
too.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy. Yeah, no, we middle school kids, like they're so great, they're so brilliant, they're so interesting, but at the same time, like we don't know what we're doing at that age.
Yeah.
We really don't. And I mean, some kids have their head on their shoulders and know from a very young age, just because of who they are. They know what they want, they know where they're going, but most of the time people really don't. And it's confusing. And you're trying to pick courses for high school in grade 8 and like what if I go academic and I fail, or what if I go to applied and I can't go to university? And I think my advice for a lot of young people is, even now, I'm an adult now, I've been teaching for over 10 years, everyone's still trying to figure it out, and it's okay to not know what you're doing at that age. Just if you're not sure, go with the flow for a bit, and that's okay. You know, and if you want to try something new. It's okay to mess up. Like at any point in your life, it's okay to mess up, especially when you're in middle school and high school. Yeah.
So recovery time from.
You have so much
Yeah.
recovery time. You don't even know,
Yeah.
man. Like it's there. You have so much time. We're all still so young.
Yeah. All right. So, Karen, I'm curious. I feel like a lot of people that I know of, at least, are interested in becoming an educator at some point, possibly. Just curious to know what your story was in becoming, like, how did you get into education as a career path?
The first time I remember wanting to be a teacher was when I was coaching basketball at the local community center. Bet you didn't know I played basketball.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I was a huge Raptors fan as a kid, starting from when I was like 15. Man, big jersey, like wore jerseys to school and everything when I wasn't supposed to, all of that jazz. Yeah, so I when I did my volunteer hours in high school, I volunteered as an assistant coach at the local community center where I used to play basketball. And then the next year they hired me as a coach. So at that point, when just watching the kids and their skill level develop, and it was very gratifying. It was very rewarding. So that's when I thought, you know what, I think I could do this. I'd really like to be a teacher. So I didn't go right into teachers college because, of course, like I realized this really late in my grade 12 year and missed the deadline to apply for teachers college. But however, the undergrad program that I did was in psychology. So I did a lot of like the child development and the human aspect of it. And which I find I can apply a lot to education. Lost my train of thought. We have to cut this.
Okay, do you think your undergrad, like the major you picked, I guess, do you think it makes you a better teacher?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. So from undergrad, as I was studying psychology, I mean, when I was in high school, my friends always called me like Dr. Gold. This is really dorky, but my last name is Au, spelled A-U. And if you look at the periodic, see, Sufal knows. Yeah, see, you guys know.
We're biased.
Yeah, you're all yeah. So for everyone out there who is not a science nerd, on the periodic table, if you find the letters AU, those are the letters that represent gold. So
fact of the day.
Fact of the day. So anyway, I was always very interested in being a therapist as well, a psychologist. And then when I went into education and as I developed in my career, I realized that another reason why I like being in middle school is because of the mentorship aspect of it. And also why I really enjoy working with the university chapters is also the mentorship aspect of it. And I mean, I would never go so far as to say I'm anyone's therapist. You need so much training for that. And so much, you have to go to so much school to be someone's therapist. Like it's not just you can be anyone's therapist. But I really do like the mentorship aspect of being an educator. So yeah, that's really it.
You're still a mentor to us even now.
That's true,
Yeah. There you go. Well, I mean, that's what reconnected us was because you were my volunteers, and then after a while, I think the last year of your high school was when you stopped volunteering. You were focused on your grade 12 getting into university.
Right. Yeah, we stopped volunteering.
Yeah, and then when you went into university, I don't know how you and I got connected. But it must have been I posted anyone at Mac want
I
to
don't
join
even
or
remember.
something.
I remember you messaging me and asking me, "Hey, you go to Mac, right?" Like you had no idea where I was going.
Yeah,
even.
I had no idea. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Andel. Did Andel know where you were going?
And
No, I
no,
don't
I don't think so.
know.
I haven't talked to.
Because he knows you're at Mac.
He does.
Yeah. he
Yeah,
knows
he
you're in
does. He
Hamilton.
actually,
How?
yeah, he randomly asked me. He's like, "Oh, it's like, where? It's like, you still dancing?" I'm like, "Yeah, like I actually run the session at Mac." He's like, "Oh, with Marvin, right?"
Oh, and Del cares about.
Of course he does. And of course,
Hi,
I'm,
Andel.
I'm sitting next to Sufal and being like, because he's like, yeah, I know. See, I know what's going on in Hamilton. I know. And he looks pointedly at me. It was like, I know everything. my eyes are rolling back behind my head because that's the relationship that Andel and I have. And again, for those of you who don't know who Andel is, he is a staff at Unity. I've known him since like 2010. So we go way back and like very, very friendly, antagonizing relationship where he always acts like he knows everything and I roll my eyes. It's kind of how it goes.
Yeah.
So anyway.
So Karen, personally, I don't think I have opinions on the education system.
I would
We're
love
not
to
going to
hear
talk
them
about
at
the
some
world
point.
because the world is crazy. But like specific in Southern Ontario, because that's where we're located. Do you have any gripes specifically, or like anything, any thoughts on it in general?
Well, speaking generally, I am actually quite proud of our education system in Southern Ontario. If you use any of the international standards, we rank quite high in math and language. And I think, whatever the current provincial opposition tries to stir up, or whatever the political parties try to stir up, we genuinely do. I mean, people will always point to those who didn't do well in school to say, look where our system failed people. And I mean, we are a public system and it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
And people do fall through the cracks, unfortunately. And a lot of the resources to support the people who do not fit into the public school system, a lot of those are private and are costly. And I think that's where, as a public school system, we can do better. Class sizes are way too big. We don't have enough special needs resources. We don't have enough funding in the arts. We don't have enough funding in sports. We don't have enough fund. There's always something that you can fund. But I do have to say, and I can only really speak to the elementary panel. I hear so many complaints about from youth such as yourself about teachers you've encountered who have been apathetic, and I understand that's the case. But teaching is hard, and even though I've been in the school system for over 10 years, I can see why people would become apathetic or do bare minimum in order to get by, because there have been years where I've been in classes where it was a pretty abusive relationship between myself and the students.
Yeah.
And the and I mean, it's just the group that you end up with, and it's just some students who have their own baggage and lash out, and there's not much you can do. And there are some teachers who have tried so hard to do right by these kids, and this is a very thankless profession as well.
No,
so it's a hard job. It's a tough gig, and I'm not going to excuse teachers who don't leave the profession if they become apathetic. I can't speak to anyone else's lives and everyone else's choices. But I would hope that if I ever got to that point, I'd figure out a way to make it better for myself. But again, I can only speak to the elementary panel. I've been to 8 schools now in my long, short tenure with my school board. Yeah. I've been to 8 schools, and every single school had teachers who cared and tried their best, worked really hard, worked long hours, longer than what the public ever sees. And I'm not just saying this to drum up support for us or anything. I mean, right now that I think about it, like we're going into negotiations. We're negotiating with the provincial government right now, and I'm not saying this just to drum up support for us. It's true. And I see how much my colleagues care for their kids, and we stay up at night thinking about our students. And we know the baggage that the kids come with, and it worries us, and we try not to let it get to us, but it does. It's wearing emotionally and physically and everything. So
yeah, I was just thinking about this while you're talking earlier, but I'm not from Bangladesh myself, but my parents are. And a lot of the comments they would often make is how, like, over here in Canada, we don't necessarily have a strict curriculum. As in, people in Bangladesh and India, they're learning much more content, much faster. Like, somebody who's completed up to, like, 10th standard or 10th grade in Bangladesh come to Canada and they're like, wow, this grade 12 math is so easy. I learned this, like, 2 years ago, right? So do you believe that the lack, it's not lack, but necessarily the amount of things we teach is enough? Because a lot of parents complain. I personally think that no, we do teach enough. And it's like, regardless if people think we're not teaching enough, we're still one of the most successful like nations to have, like, our education system is pretty successful in general. Right.
I mean, every country has their own philosophy to education. And I've never spoken to a parent. I spoke to my husband's from Bangladesh as well. So
Yeah.
he talks about how the education system there, the math, as you say, and the science is leaps and bounds
Yeah.
over ours. At the same time, I would wonder what their priority is for the growth of a child and child development.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here I think that we try our best to strike a balance in looking at the kid as a whole person. There are people who would disagree with me, but if I were to look internationally at schools, other schools in Asia too, like if you go to Korea or Japan or China, depending on the district and depending on the school, it's the same thing. You go to Iran, you go to Azerbaijan, same thing. Like the parents who come here say, you need to give my kid more work. But,
Yeah.
but we already do a lot. We have an excellent curriculum, and if we stuff the kids with more, then you're not letting them be kids. You're not letting them develop emotionally. You're not letting them develop socially. Our kindergarten program is play-based for a reason. You learn and you develop your brain through play. And that's because we're human. We're not just robots.
There's more than just your math or science skills, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my physiotherapist at one point he's from Iran. He grew up in Iran and immigrated here with his family when he became an adult. So he went through the entire school system in Iran, and now he's watching his son go through the Canadian system. His son's in grade 8 now. He says, in Iran, and this by no means is a criticism, it's just differences in systems.
Yeah.
So he said in Iran, a kid at 18 would academically be a genius compared to the kids here. However, they probably wouldn't be able to move out on their own. They probably wouldn't know how to manage their finances on their own. They probably wouldn't have the maturity level to do any of those life skill things. Where he's looking at his son who's in grade 8 now. In 4 years, he can see his son moving out and just developing as a human being outside of the family, outside of having so many different interests outside of just school. And if you walk into my classroom, there's kids who work hard, but there's also laughter because we try to create a community. And if you're just focused on maths and sciences in the classroom, then you're not developing those human connections, I think.
So I just really like the story you just said. Can I ask you for like a story you have, whether it's like through your 11 years of teaching? Do you have like a specific student, like whether they treated you badly?
Something memorable, right?
Something memorable. Something unique.
Oh, man. I'm going to swear now.
Oh.
So I had a student call me a cunt once.
Oh. So how did that even happen?
I mean, I can't give out names, and I can't tell you which
yeah.
school I was at or what age this kid was. It wasn't a student of mine. It was just a student at the school, and he had his own. He had so much going on at home, and it impacted his mental health, and it impacted his social emotional regulation. He basically had no self-regulation emotionally. So it was recess, or it was lunchtime actually, and he was allowed to go on the computer just to keep him calm during lunch because there was no one-to-one teacher supervision at that time. And in order to keep him calm so that there was no altercations with him and the other students during lunchtime, they let him watch movies on a laptop with his headphones. And so, of course, they're kids. Of course, there's gonna be other kids who go and like try to watch, and they're not allowed to. It's just he's allowed to because of given his circumstances. So I go in there. I'm on like lunch duty, wearing my cheesy orange vest, the ones that the teachers wear.
Yeah.
I'm up there in the class. So I'm up there, and I know that he's the only one who's given this opportunity because of his needs. So I'm trying to get all the other kids to move away, and of course they're angry because they're like, "Why does he get to and I don't?" I mean, they understand, but they have moments where they're mad too because they want to watch.
They're still kids.
Yeah, they're
right?
still kids. So I'm trying to tell them to move, and he turns around and says, "You don't have to listen to this bitch. Stay here." And Like me, I know this kid and I know what's going on with him, so I ignore his comments and I tell the other kids to go back to their desks. And then they're like, and that kid who's given the opportunity to watch the movie, whatever, he goes, "Shut up, you stupid cunt."
Oh, wow.
And I had to completely ignore that and just
Yeah.
keep having the other kids move back to their desks.
Mm.
And like that's the kind of abuse that we take from students who have no emotional self-regulation, and swearing at people like that was his baseline.
Yeah.
So there wouldn't be consequences for him because that was his baseline behavior.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he was behaving worse than what was expected. So, and in a system like ours, those are the kids that, what do you do? They have to learn how to socialize with kids their age. They have to be able to see other kids socializing in a way that is healthy. If you remove him and place him with kids who are like him as well, they have no model for healthy socialization. But then you're put in a position where all the other kids watch him calling me a cunt, watch him calling me a fucking bitch,
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know,
That's a tough spot.
yeah. And I mean, to be fair too, the kids around who see this happening, they also develop a sense of empathy because they know, what, there are people who struggle, and if he ever treated me like that, I would go to the teacher and tell them I don't have to put up with it.
Yeah.
Let the teachers deal with it. So, I don't know. It's a hard decision to make with people like that, but I think the kid was in the right place. He had a lot of education, like support staff with him, pretty much almost throughout the entire day. EAs don't get paid enough, by the way. Just saying.
Shout out to you.
Shout to support staff.
Yeah.
So that was like, yeah, probably not my craziest story, but
yeah. I remember I wouldn't imagine swearing at someone like back in middle school.
Yeah.
But then like if someone were to at the time, I don't think I would have understood. Like now I look at it, I'm like, oh, there's probably something else going on.
Yeah.
There's so much more in the background I can't like grasp.
Yeah.
But yeah, you wouldn't have the perspective at the time,
exactly.
right?
But at the time, I'd be like, what the hell? Like, what's wrong with this person?
Yeah.
Well, and that's where I think at the school level now, and it's not just at the school where that happened. I do see that the students, whenever there's someone different or someone who behaves differently who comes through the school, they don't ostracize them. This kid was not ostracized. He had friends. He had people who played with him. And if he ever acted up, the kids would get the teacher and he'd get help. Like, there would be new kids who came to the school who didn't understand and they'd get into fights with him. But, but then, at the end of the day, he was still very well supported. And so I was at that school for a couple years and I watched that student's emotional regulation develop over time. And eventually he got to a point where from where I first met him to when he left the school, so different.
Yeah.
Because of the support that he got.
Just goes to show how much support can affect.
It must be so cool to see like the development of kids throughout the year then, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. I think I have one more question for you, Karen. Sure. So for anyone who's going into the field of education, people who are considering to maybe be a teacher one day, do you have any advice for them?
It's hard. You better care about kids or don't go into it.
Yeah.
Don't go into it because it's your fallback. Don't go into it because you want summers off. Don't go into it because you think it's great pay. None of that. That should never be the reason you get into it.
Yeah.
Ever. If you want to get into teaching, you need to be able to put up with the political bullshit.
I would imagine so.
You need, unless you went to a private school. But then if you went to a private school, you have to negotiate your own
there's
pay.
always things,
There's always something. Like,
Yeah.
and there's the Jewish private schools, there's the Montessori schools, there's the Catholic private schools, and then there's the public school system. But in any situation, just like any other job, there's bullshit. And if you are just going to complain about the bullshit and not try to make it better, then it might not be the profession for you. But if you're willing to work really hard at helping these kids, then yeah, you just have to be able, like this. And this is a general statement for anyone looking for a job. It's going to be hard work. Oh, and that that quote that goes around, find the right profession and you'll never work a day in your life.
Oh yeah,
It's a load of crap.
I think so too. No.
Because even artists who love what they do, they still have to work really hard.
Yeah.
There are days when they don't want to go to rehearsal. There are days when they're injured and they don't have health insurance, or they don't have, they can't really apply for EI or whatever it is, that's financially, it's really tough. And if you look at the stuff that is hard and you think, you know what, going through that is worth it so that I can get to the good stuff, then you know it's the profession for you. And that's how it is with teaching too. Like, I always think, what is it that keeps me there? It's the kids. They keep me there.
Damn.
Yeah. And like, it's the marking, I hate it. Report cards, hate it, but it's just parts of my day. And if I get to walk into the classroom and see the students and laugh with them and watch them learn, and that brings me joy, then that's it. Yeah.
Wow,
that's it.
I gotta quote you on that. Karen, keep on the team. That was great. Yeah. So that pretty much wraps up our podcast.
Sweet.
Yeah. So do you have any like social media, anything you want to shout out?
My own Insta account maybe, but it's private, so.
Oh, well, I mean, they can still
you can
attempt
do
to
it.
follow you.
Oh, at Miss Karen Au.
Miss Karen now.
Yeah.
Oh.
MS and then Karen Au. AU.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Other than that, I just want to thank you again for being on our show.
Of course, it was a pleasure.
Yeah, we had dinner. We recorded the podcast. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any closing remarks?
No. I thought it's super awesome to see you, like,
Yeah.
especially because you've been with us, or we've known of you for like the past 5-6 years.
Yeah.
So
Watch y'all grow up, man.
Yeah, like being one of your volunteers to get to like do a podcast with
I
you.
think you saw us go through the
Yeah.
glow up and everything.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
saw us at like our awkward stage
Oh,
too,
yeah.
right? Like 14, 15
You
year
don't need to
olds.
tell anyone about that. I
No
can
need to say
private.
anything.
That's between us.
Your secrets are safe to me.
Yeah. All right. So if you guys enjoyed this podcast and you think you're an interesting person, or you're not an interesting person, you just want to come on and talk about a specific topic with us, feel free to email us at tellmeabout@gmail.com. Or if you know me or
Wait,
Marvin.
don't tell me about official.
Oh my.
Yeah,
apologies.
yeah.
Tellmeaboutofficial@gmail.com. If you know me or Marvin personally, feel free to message us on whatever social media you have us on. And other than that, we hope you have a great day, night, morning, evening, whatever time it is you're listening to this. And I will
See you in the next.
see you in the next podcast.
episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.